Oh, hello there. I'm Jimmy Shuker alongside Albert Chalmers, and this is Radiant Light, a spiritual discussion podcast, episode 15. On today's episode, we're welcoming back long-term friend of the podcast, Shawn Goodman, to speak about a subject which is relevant to both martial arts and the mental health division of our Radiant Light podcast. Today, we'll be discussing exercise. We'd like to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to our first 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel. We are incredibly grateful for your fantastic support. Here's hoping to us making it to the big 1000. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as whichever platform you listen to your podcasts on. And you can even follow us on Instagram too. Radiant_light_podcast. And you can always reach out to us at Radiant Light Podcast 1, that's the number 1, at gmail.com. And with that being said, let's take you to the episode. Welcome to another edition of the Radiant Light Podcast. Shawn, it's great to have you back on the show. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me again.
How are you doing today? Good?
Yeah, I'm great. It's a long weekend here, so it couldn't be better.
Oh, super. What's the celebration?
It's the Victoria Day weekend, so celebration of our past colonial rulers.
That's Queen Victoria, not Victoria Beckham, okay? Just get that straight. Get that straight.
Albert, welcome back to the show as well. How are you today, my friend?
Feeling good, man. Feel good. It's been a nice long little weekend for us.
Nice. Yeah. It's been a great weekend all round, it sounds like. Good to see you back live in the Radiant Live studio as well, looking sharp.
Yeah, I don't live here or anything. This isn't my bedroom.
No, not at all. Okay, so right at the top of the show here, I feel there's a couple of announcements that we would like to make. The first being, the Tao has spoken. So we previously mentioned martial arts, mental health. Both of these we kind of termed mini theories, but the Tao has spoken and they've now morphed into full-blown subdivisions within the Radiant Light brand. Shawn, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Albert and I just felt that there was so much to talk about in these departments. They just had to be so much more than mini series. So they're general topics that are going to be ongoing and discussed going forward.
Yeah, sounds like a great plan.
Like two
Albert,
branches, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
two branches. Yeah, it's a great way to put it. How are you feeling about that decision, Albert? You feel it's like it's the right move?
Well, it's like on the one hand, there's so much more to life than martial arts, but then on the other hand, I don't feel like I would ever run out of things to talk about on that front either. So it's good to like come to it and then go back away from it and then come back to it again later and then just keep going back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd imagine you're fairly sugen, as we say in Swedish, craving some more martial arts discussions after we did the two mental health, after we did the one mental health episode recently.
Well, yeah, this kind of like brings the two together so everyone's happy at the end of the conversation, really. Nobody feels like they don't have anything to say, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was my thinking behind
more
it.
to life than martial arts. I don't know, man. I don't think Bruce Lee would.
I mean, you got to pay the bills and shit. You got to have the skills to pay the bills.
Exactly. So the second of our two major announcements here at the top of the show, Albert, I feel like it's better if I leave this one to you. You take the second announcement.
Well, me and Shawn were talking about whether or not you'd be interested in becoming the honorary third member to the sort of brotherhood of Radiant Light, because you've been on the show a few times now. So it just seems like, I don't know, it seems like every once in a while you'll just show up and do a show or whatever. And
Well,
I mean, you don't have to.
that's yeah. Well, thanks. I'm quite surprised. I wasn't expecting that one. Being up seems like I'm getting a promotion here from guest to junior
A
member.
little bit. A
Yeah,
little bit.
a little bit of a promotion. But yeah,
Honorary
that's
third member.
honorary third member. Okay, I'll take it because yeah, my editing skills are not quite up to par, so I don't have like the quite the technical expertise, but I do love being on the show. It's always a pleasure being a guest here. So yeah, I will accept that title with great honor.
Well,
Oh,
I
so
think from my side of things, it just seemed like we were all on the same kind of trajectory, like in terms of leveling up in career, and then on the martial arts thing, you've, maybe we'll get into that in a bit, right? But it's like you've sort of taken a step back into that territory as well. So it's like it feels like we're already kind of a, I don't know how to explain it. Jimmy's better at this stuff than I am, but it just felt right in the basic way I could say it.
yeah, definitely. I mean, now you've said that, I'm kind of struggling to find the words a little bit. But look, what are we now? 15, 16 episodes deep into Radiant Light. Shawn, you coming along for an episode sort of seems to be averaging out sort of once every 4 or 5 episodes now. And it feels like a really special occasion when you come and you bring so much good content and well structured descriptions, and you're clearly well read up on everything that we discussed. So it only feels right that you should be the third member of the panel here. So very grateful that you've
The Holy
accepted.
Trinity.
Yeah, very grateful you've accepted the position.
Yeah, well, thank you. Like I said, I'm honored, and yeah, it's been a great time being on the show, and it's been good too. I was reflecting on this, especially like the Shaolin episode. To prepare for that, like I read this book, taking some notes. It really was pushing me to really dive into a topic. I've got a lot of interests, but sometimes without how do I say, like without some sort of external motivation, sometimes you might just kind of flip through a book and you're like, oh, this is cool. And then you put it down and there's not that sort of urgency to finish it. But I did enjoy that, sort of diving into a topic and giving it some structure, thinking, okay, well, I've got to make sure that I've, got these points covered, got to make sure that I'm, going to be able to give like an accurate historical account of this subject matter at hand. So which had been a while since I'd had to really dive that deep into a topic since my university days. So yeah, no, I really enjoy it. I like doing the research, and I don't have the same kind of background in Zen as the two of you. I guess I'm gonna have to step my game up a little bit, and
Hey,
maybe
we're all beginners here, beginners
yeah.
mindset.
I don't know if you noticed, that episode was like by far our most viewed. It's close on 7,000 views or whatever. So
Wow.
that's a sign about something.
Yeah, the Shaolin episode, you was a big
That was a
hit
big
on,
jump up for sure.
and
Yeah,
you were
and
clearly really well read up on that one, Shawn. I was really impressed by the knowledge you brought to the table there.
well, thank you. Thank you. Well, and you guys as well. I mean, you got the again, bringing in more of the philosophical sort of like Zen perspectives. Albert's like an encyclopedia of kung fu films. So I think that we had a pretty good trifecta going there. And funny enough, when I was doing some research for the episode, I thought to myself, oh, there's going to be a lot. Like it's Shaolin, right? There's going to be like a lot there. But I was quite surprised when I was going through YouTube. There was a lot of things, like a lot of videos that were like, oh, cool moves by a Shaolin guy, or oh, the Shaolin monk training, which again, interesting stuff. But when it came to the history of Shaolin, I didn't actually see a lot of content there. And again, maybe it's just the sort of my own sort of personal interests and biases coming in here that I always want to see the historical side of something. but I was just a little bit surprised that there wasn't more about the history of Shaolin on YouTube. So maybe we've really just tapped into like an an untouched subject or market, that
Yeah,
previously
there was a
wasn't out
gap
there.
there for
Yeah,
sure.
gap. Yeah.
Yeah, found a little niche. Yeah, awesome. Well, moving on to today's episode, I mentioned briefly that we're covering both martial arts and mental health, and how the two subjects have kind of morphed into departments within Radiant Light. And we really felt that today's subject matter, which is exercise, really covers both, clear mental health benefits to regular exercise and going to the gym, running, whatever form it may take. And of course, the three of us are going to discuss martial arts as well, whilst we're on the subject of exercise. So, I mean, Albert, where should we begin with exercise?
Well, I think almost everyone would agree that you should have some form of physical exercise in your life routine. It doesn't have to be extraneous or anything like extreme. I've always been drawn to sort of extreme sports and things, but that's just kind of like to keep my, I guess it's the ADHD or whatever that keeps me easily distracted. So if I'm doing something where the adrenaline is sort of getting used, then I'm much easier to hit that flow state and just stay in the moment. But also, just walking could be like a form of exercise that's also very meditative and helps with mental health. So I think the most basic and enjoyable one would just be walking, right? And everything you do from there is up to you, the individual. So
Well, I think right at the start of that, I picked up on how one of the first words out of your mouth there was routine. I think it's very beneficial for everybody to have some kind of routine. What's the phrase? Motivation gets you started, routine keeps you going. If you've got something in your daily life that you naturally do. Okay, so example for me off the top of my head, my best routine, so to speak, when I was working on the weekend shift at work, my routine was, okay, Monday, drop Ebba off to school. As soon as I've done that, directly to the gym, like I did it automatically without having to think. And that's kind of what really got me on board with a gym routine.
yeah, because it self-sustains, right?
Yeah, exactly. You do it without thinking.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think a really big thing too is just enjoyment in it. Like I've had
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a fairly active person, I would say, like somewhat athletic. Like I haven't really done any particular sport for a long period of time. I don't know, I have a lot of interests, so I sort of shift and I'll think, oh, okay, this is sort of interesting. I'm going to do this. And then later I'll switch to another activity. So I haven't really been consistent, but I always just think it's important to enjoy what you're doing. And I have a lot of people ask me that, like, oh, how do you, go out for runs frequently? How do you stay committed to doing, X or Y activity? And I always say the biggest thing is just actually enjoying it. If you're a person that hates going to the gym, you're probably not going to go to the gym. You might force yourself. Maybe your New Year's resolution, January 1st, you might drag your butt there for a couple times, but if you hate the environment, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, it's not going to be sustainable. So I
Yeah.
think that again, people have different goals, right? So it depends what your fitness goals are. There's a lot of different factors, but at the end of the day, I always tell people just find something you like and stick with it. If it's playing volleyball, if it's going for hikes, if it's playing badminton, if you enjoy something and it's not a chore to do it. Again, it's not to say that some days you're kind of, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, I'm tired, I didn't sleep well. Of course, there's going to be days where it's not the most fun, where you are pushing yourself to do it. But if it's going to be that experience every single time, you're probably just going to quit. So that's what I always say. Just find something that's actually enjoyable.
Do you think
Focusing
that
on,
the oh sorry.
no, it's okay. You go, Albert. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say, do you think that the enjoyment could come as a result of having the discipline while the motivation isn't there until you reach a point where, like, I know with running, I mean, there was a time when running wasn't our favorite sport or activity. We did biking instead and stuff, but you know, now you seem to enjoy it, right? Like I love running now, but there was a time when
Yeah.
I dreaded and resented.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
if it, I don't know how always like, of course you have to enjoy it, but there might be a sort of chicken before the egg type scenario.
Yeah, well, I would say again, your preferences might change over time, and I think running is a great example because you and I have, I think, have had a similar experience and talked about this before. If you asked me a decade ago, I would have told you I hated running. Like 10 years ago, you could not get me out. I just absolutely did not enjoy it. But biking, get me out on a mountain bike, and I loved it. We would go out for rides in the woods, and I used it for transportation and going out and hitting the trails. That was legitimately fun. Like it was like an adventure. You're outside, going over some jumps and stuff. It was an adventure, and I appreciated it. And then over time, again, my preferences have shifted. My body's changed as well. For some reason now, it's kind of the opposite. Most people start with running and then switch to cycling because they say it's lower impact. For some
Right.
reason, the opposite has happened with me, where now biking just bothers my knees a lot. Don't know why.
Really?
Yeah, whereas running has been fine. So again, over time, I've started to shift my preferences, my priorities. I've learned to enjoy it. But I think that maybe at age 23, when I loved biking and hated running, it was a better option to go out cycling because again, it was something I enjoyed, felt like an adventure. So I do think that there's truth in what you're saying, that you can learn to like things. Just because you don't initially like something doesn't mean you never will. And you can learn discipline, learn how to, persevere and enjoy something. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about like a beginner here, someone day one, they've been sitting on the couch for a decade. They're like, listen, I want to get into shape. I want to turn my life around. That would be the first thing I would tell someone, is just find something that's tolerable. Find something that you enjoy. And I think there's different ways of enjoying something. It could be like, I think for you and I, there's a thrill from doing, more extreme sports, like we rock climb, cycle. So I think that there's that kind of adrenaline rush from that. But other people might just appreciate the social factor, right? Like there's like these sort of community hiking groups, or maybe you play on like a pickup basketball game, and they like the sort of the socializing, meeting people. So again, there's different ways to enjoy something. Some people maybe might be more motivated by adrenaline, other people by social factors. But at the end of the day, I think you got to find some level of enjoyment in what you're doing. Otherwise, you're probably not going to do it for very long.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love the fact that the first thing you focused on is enjoyment in general, very much in spirit of the Zed podcast that we talked about. Enjoying the now and going from there.
For sure.
Yeah, the flow state. That's for me. That's the one. I said that in the Tai Chi episode. The flow is everything, man. The flow is everything. Like it sounds really hippie kind of, but it
Well,
is for me.
well, that's kind of like next level enjoyment, isn't it? It's kind of like you get into that flow state, or you get into a type of state where the time just kind of naturally flies by, and your ego wasn't thinking about something else. Your mind wasn't on a totally different thing. And you're like, wow, I kind of really lost myself and was really absorbed into that moment doing that thing that I was doing. Like that's a great feeling, especially if it comes from like a physical activity that's improving your body at the same time.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I do really enjoy exercising, is because I again, it's something that I'm trying to work on. I've been reading up more on mindfulness and meditation. I think that I certainly, as the new junior member, I've got a lot to learn from you two on this subject.
We're
But
not so advanced.
but I have trouble shutting off my mind. Like I think it's the ADHD. Like I'm also like generally a pretty anxious person. So I do have a lot of trouble being able to turn off my thoughts, turn off my mind. Whereas when I exercise, I do feel like all the thoughts in the back of my mind sort of dissipate, especially if it's something intense. Like if I'm, if I was doing like a really challenging trail, or if I was rock climbing, or, doing something that required a lot of exertion and focus. I really enjoyed that state because I felt like it was one of the few times where there was nothing else in the back of my mind.
Yeah, and that kind of carries over into your life, right? Like if you go for a run and you get the runner's high, or I don't know if that's an official term, but that state of euphoria afterwards will carry over into leading a less stressful life, which is the main benefit of, I mean, that's how exercise and mindfulness kind of work together, I guess. Try to
Sure.
exercise mindfully so it has a double effect.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, that's what gets you into the flow state, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if that's like common knowledge or if it's just like unspoken truth, because I guess everyone does that to some degree, right? It's just when you articulate it, it makes it more noticeable the next time you do an activity, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I must say, I've been noticing when I'm in or out of flow state much more since we began the podcast. It has literally made me mindful of as and when these situation comes about, probably because we're speaking it into reality, we're getting it out there into the universe. Shawn, how does your exercise routine look these days? Like, could you give us an insight into kind of what your schedule looks like? Like, what do you do these days?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I alluded to earlier, I I've always had a lot of very diverse interests, which can be both positive and negative. It can be good because I don't know, you get exposed to a lot of different topics and ideas and concepts, and but it can also be sometimes, not so great because I don't always, see things quite to the end. Um,
Have you
so
done that quite a few times then? Just picked up a hobby and then jacked it in?
well, yeah, I mean, now I've gotten back into martial arts, but I think a very, very similar to what you were saying in one of the previous episodes, how you started, when you were doing karate, right? When you
Mm,
were younger, and then how
yeah.
you stopped doing it. So it was kind of like that for me. When I was a teenager, I did judo and Muay Thai. And then the judo, why did I stop? I think I just didn't like the wrestling part, like the kind of the grabbing so much. I wanted to focus more on punching and kicking. I was like, I don't really want to be, doing throws. Like I like the punching and kicking. Maybe it was just sort of that influence of watching lots of martial arts movies and stuff like that. And so I started doing Muay Thai, and then um I stopped actually because my instructor quit, and he was the only Muay at the time. This is before it became, much more mainstream, and he was the only Muay Thai instructor in Guelph. And so once he quit, I just
Mm.
sort of stopped doing it, and then, kind of ended up kind of falling out of it at that point. But it's something that I kept coming back to. Like I kept thinking to myself, like, oh, I want to get back into martial arts. It's something that I enjoy doing, and I like the experience of it. And so I kept talking about it for years and years. And then recently, my partner, said to me, she's like, "Oh, I'm sick of always hearing you talk about this. You've been bringing this up now for the past 5 or 6 years." So she's like, "Okay, like I have a friend. My friend is a co-owner of a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym, and I'm taking you there. We're gonna sign you up. You're gonna start doing classes." And so it was
Oh,
really good.
wow.
Yeah, so it's good that she was really supportive and kind of gave me that final
Sounds like she was
push.
more than supportive.
Yeah. So recently I've been, getting pretty, it's just been a couple weeks now, but I've been getting really into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and yeah, we can definitely talk more about that
How
in
do you
greater length.
find how do you find that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu differs from the judo that you did? It's more a lot of groundwork, right? And then the judo is more like takedowns and throws and getting to the
Yeah.
ground, right?
Yes. Yeah. So when I was a teenager and I was doing judo, yeah, I didn't get to the point where we did any groundwork. I know it really depends on the judo school. But most of the time it's like standing, it's throws. So when I was in judo, I just got up to yellow belt, so I didn't really get that far. But yeah, we just mostly did different throws and like leg sweeps and stuff like that. But so far with BJJ, I've just been doing groundwork. Most have been going to gi classes. I've gone to one no gi class so far. They also do a judo takedown night, like one night a week. Haven't had a chance to go to that yet, but I'm definitely going to.
How
But yeah,
many nights are you doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu per week at the moment?
um, at the moment I've got a lot of free time. Like I just finished
Hmm.
my third university degree. I'm looking for
Oh,
jobs right
wow.
now. If yeah, so
Hold on.
so I've got a little bit of free time in my schedule.
Hmm.
Um, so right now I'm going like trying to do 3, 4 nights a week, or not nights, days a week. Sometimes I go to the day class. But yeah,
Awesome.
I'm hoping once I get like hopefully soon I'll get a full-time teaching job,
Hmm.
and then I'll try to commit to maybe about 3 nights a week. Yeah.
Nice. So is that your main thing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Is there any kind of other exercises you do around that, or you kind of laser focusing in on that particular thing?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's been a pretty recent development, and I just finished school. My schedule just opened up. I just joined this gym, so it's been a pretty recent development. But prior to this, yeah, like a few years ago, before COVID, I was really into rock climbing. Like I was obsessed. And a similar kind of situation actually. After I finished my master's, didn't have a job I was just sort of working part time. Started rock climbing 4 or 5 times a week. Got like really obsessed with it.
Wow,
Got
man, what a
got
hobby to do. Hmm.
it's amazing. Actually, I think the first time I went was with well, I went as a kid. I remember I would go to like birthday parties. They would be at like a rock climbing gym. There's a pretty big
Hmm.
gym in the town where I grew up, where I met Albert. And then I hadn't done it in a couple of years, and then actually Albert said, "Oh, I'm gonna go climbing. You want to join?" And then him and I went together, and I was like, "Yeah, this was a lot of fun." And then it just sort of started my obsession with it.
Yeah, that was cool to see you get so into it because it was like, you bring people to things and just see what happens. But then every once in a while, the same thing happened with Connor and Muay Thai. When I started training MMA and Muay Thai and stuff, he just took it all the way and went to freaking Thailand and had a fight and everything. I was like, you guys really grab onto things and do it pretty intensely. So it's motivating and it's inspiring to me as well.
Oh, thank you.
I'd
I mean,
imagine you
I
got a lot physically stronger from the rock climbing and general health benefits all round, right?
yeah, like I love climbing. I think I guess this is my problem, is sometimes I hit a plateau with something and I start to get a little bit frustrated. So I did like the first year I made like a lot of progress in climbing, but then I sort of hit this plateau and I never really broke it because I would get busy, I wouldn't go, and then I would come back, and then I would sort of it would decline, come back, it would get up to this level and stay there. And I guess I just started to get a little bit frustrated with it. And then COVID happened and it sort of broke the routine. And then during COVID, I just
Ah.
got into just running and just like calisthenics and just like some little weights I have at home. But now that, things have kind of, I shouldn't say COVID's over, because of course it still is impacting the health and livelihood of a lot of people around the world. But in Ontario, all the restrictions are gone, the mask mandate's gone, all the regulations are pretty much gone. It's not really on most people's minds anymore. So I figured now would just be a good time to make that kind of transition and, try something new.
I bet the grip strength carries over to the jiu-jitsu.
That's really funny that you say that, because really, really has. I would say that's actually probably been my greatest asset in starting BJJ has been the grip strength. And mind you, I don't really like, I'm still getting the hang of it. I don't really know what I'm doing. But that has been one thing I've been pretty good at is like getting a hold of someone's gi and then just hanging on for dear life. I've got pretty good endurance in my forearm. So that has been an asset. But then funny enough, I had my first no gi class a few days ago. And my like again, I'm not great. Let's say like, most of the class is like up here. I'm like down here, right? Without the gi, it just I felt like I was back to day one because I had nothing to grab onto, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
See, I've only
Mhm.
trained no gi. I've never done, not that I've done a lot of BJJ, but it's all been no gi. And yeah, it's like a different world, really. I guess the
it
gi
was
is a whole other dimension, right?
it was a humbling experience because I've been doing okay. Like, maybe let's say we're doing a few different rolls. So for those of you who don't know out there, rolling is just like kind of your grappling, your practice, sort of rolling
Like
around on the mat.
live sparring, but with grappling.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so normally I do okay. Like let's say I'm, rolling with a blue belt or something. Like I'm white, obviously. Like I'm rolling with like maybe someone that's a belt above me. Um, I'm certainly not winning the fight at all or the sparring. I'm not winning, but I can usually kind of last the round without getting submitted. Or maybe I get submitted once, but I kind of put up a good fight. I was with this blue belt, big guy. So I mean you can't see in the camera, but I'm about 6 feet tall, roughly 185 pounds. This guy must have been 6'1" ish, 6'2", probably weighed a good 40 pounds more than me. And without the gi, I felt like a rag doll being thrown around. Like this guy he looked like Colossus from the X-Men. Like he was like
Wow.
this massive dude. And he, in a 3 or 4 minute roll, he probably submitted me 4 or 5 times. It was like every 20 seconds, he got me into a chokehold or an armbar. And it was like a humbling experience. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I felt like I was just like, like I just gotten hit by a truck. Like it was, yeah, but still though, like afterwards, I was like on the ground just gasping for air. And he's like, "Oh, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I just need a minute, man." But like, I'm fine. But it was just, I don't know, it was a humbling experience and really just made me realize, you really gotta with BJJ especially, you gotta put your ego aside, right? And that's how you're going to get hurt. All the stories I've heard of people getting hurt are someone that has an ego and they don't want to tap out. So someone's choking them and they just refuse to tap out, or someone's got them in an arm bar. They refuse to just let go. But that I think that's a big part of the sport, which I'm starting to learn, is that you gotta check your ego at the door. Otherwise, you're gonna hurt yourself or you're gonna hurt someone else, right? So you just have to understand that there's gonna be someone out there like bigger and stronger than you that is just gonna totally wreck your shit, but it's part of the sport. You got to accept it. And there's no shame in tapping out. I'd rather, tap out and just have a safe roll than try to bring my ego in and try to be like, oh, I'm this tough masculine guy. I'm not going to tap out to anybody. It's like, okay, well, that's how you're going to get yourself and your training partner hurt if you have that sort of mentality here.
Yeah, you either win or you learn, right? And you don't learn
Yeah.
unless you lose. Uh, you lose the battle to win the war, as they say.
Well, I've been losing a lot of battles, but
Yeah, man.
that's
Then
part
you're
of it. Yeah.
learning a lot, I
Yeah.
guess, right?
The
I
way you
remember.
describe
No, you go for it, man. It's
Oh,
cool.
thanks, man. The way you described that just then, it sounded like you tap out and then the round continues again quite quickly after that with the training partner. Is that right? Or
Uh, yeah, usually there's like 3 to 5 minute rolls. I think the no-gi we're doing 3 minutes, but usually it's like five. And yeah, if you tap out, you just start over. Like it's just training, it's just practice, right? And
and get straight back into it. Wow.
yeah, and that's what I find interesting too. Like, is just the sort of the difference in like the mentality and the kind of everything, the body language of different belts. Like you get white belts, and again, I'm probably guilty of this, like who are just really going all in, just like trying to power it, giving it all, using all their muscle and strength. And then you get it, you roll with like someone that's a higher belt. Again, I'm just doing with blues because it's like the beginner class, so it's like white and blue together. The upper belts are in a separate class. But I get with the blue belt who's maybe been, doing it for 2 years, and they're just so much more chill. They're not like going all out. They're just sort of like, you come and you grab them, but they're like, you can tell they're like much more calm. They're like thinking, they're kind of very deliberate in their movements. So you can just see the difference on like the face of a white belt and the face of a blue belt. And the blue belt just seems a lot more, well, I guess a lot more zen.
You stole the words right from
Yeah.
my mouth. Then it sounds like the more experienced they are, the more zen they become.
Yeah, and it's been inspiring too. Like there's some older guys at the gym. There's one guy that I've been rolling with. I think he told me he was, 64, 63, 64. And he's rolling with, younger guys in their 20s or 30s. And yeah,
Wow, that much of an age gap.
for sure. And yeah, he's not, exerting himself. Like it's definitely a very different feel than if you're rolling with like a 25-year-old white belt who's just kind of all just a testosterone, right? He's a lot more like
full
chill,
of beans,
but
yeah.
but no, but it's fun though, and you can see too, again, he's a lot more just like slower. It almost feels like he's doing Tai Chi, like he's just really like slow with the movements, very deliberate. And he's really good. Like again, I'm bigger and younger than him. But like every time I try to grab it, just like he's just really calm, puts his chin down, rolls into it, moves his arm. It's like he's doing like Tai Chi on the ground. Like you can tell this guy's really got that Zen mindset.
Well,
So
maybe he does know a little bit of Tai Chi, because I remember Albert telling me that a lot of martial art experts actually do a little bit of Tai Chi as well. We spoke about this in the Tai Chi episode, where they do a little bit of Tai Chi and kind of couple that with whatever their main martial art is. Is that right, Albert?
Well, I mean, judo is considered a kind of gentle art. It means gentle way. And Brazilian jiu-jitsu comes from Japanese judo, which comes from the old styles of jiu-jitsu, the more like samurai type fighting styles to the death and whatnot. But it all comes, there is like a Zen history within that community. I don't know if like Tai Chi is necessarily practiced by Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys, but it's like maybe the mentality behind it, or just like slower and less forceful movements are usually actually better for those kind of, like I remember when I was grappling, I was closing my eyes at times and just using my intuition, which you can't do in kickboxing because you will get hit in the face.
Yeah, no way.
But
I don't know, man. Jean-Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport would disagree with you.
Yeah, well, he's a proper ninja. I'm not on that level yet, but that's a classic movie, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Albert, would you like to tell us a bit more about your current exercise routines and interests, kind of where you're at with things? Like, talk us through that, please.
So I've kind of had like a transition phase period, because I was doing kickboxing and boxing, and then I got really good at the cardio and the sort of speed and the timing and everything, and I felt like I was really good there. So then I started looking towards areas that I was weaker in, like grappling, especially wrestling, like getting someone to the ground, because I've never actually intended to get into those exchanges, but then I realized that MMA, it's a complete package, and wrestling is one of the biggest fundamentals there. And I just felt really physically weak, and I didn't enjoy feeling that way. So I spent the last month and a half just going to the gym more and lifting heavier and heavier weights as trying to gain, like, I don't know if you can see, I'm trying to gain a little bit of size so I can feel stronger.
Looking ripped.
Yeah, but I slowed down on the cardio for a minute, just for now. But I'm gonna get back to sparring and things.
Yeah. Well, it's surprising for me to hear you say that you're feeling weak, because I always thought you were one of the most, active, in one of the guys I know that's in the best shape. So
Well, thanks. But I mean, just like in terms of how much weight I can physically lift in that department, I haven't felt like I haven't really. I mean, you guys have been lifting weights maybe on and off or whatever, but like I've never really spent a lot of my energy on that. And now I'm just like, I'll never fall in love with it the way I'm in love with the sparring or anything, but I feel like it does make me feel more confident just knowing that I've been in the gym doing those weights. It's a mental thing mostly, but physically, I'm just trying to gain weight and gain muscle, basically.
Feels like so much of the gym is a mental thing. That there's so many mental barriers that you kind of push through. You think you're at one certain level and that's kind of it. That's what you do. And then one day you just look at yourself and you think, look, man, I'm doing 12 reps in each set here. I can clearly just push through this. Why am I not just lifting the heavier weight? And then, yeah, lo and behold, you're like, wow, yeah, I've done it. I've pushed through a mental barrier. Like, this is the new level that I'm at now. I've leveled up, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. It keeps your dopamine going because it's like
Yeah.
reward every time you hit a new benchmark or a new when you get the gains and you notice and people comment like, oh, you look swole. I'm like, shit, I guess it worked. But that just makes me realize how I've been slacking these last. I just want to say, like, maybe I'm one of the most active people that somebody knows or whatever, but in my head, I'm like, I could do way more. And that kind of conversation with yourself is kind of fun. You're like flirting with yourself almost. You're like, you could do a little bit more. And you're like, yeah, but I look all right. It's all good. And then you're like, yeah, but like you slacked on that one thing. And that dialogue, that's really given me a kind of flavor of life, kind of. I don't know how to articulate it, but it's like fun to be alive when you're. I don't know. For me, it's like, what's the point of being a man if I'm not getting into fist fights in the gym and like lifting heavy shit? Basically, that's my meathead mentality right now. I'm just like, switch the brain off and just lift shit. It's really been fun, but it's all in the service of the ultimate goal, which is to get a kickboxing bout under my belt before the year's end.
Oh, wow. Tell us a bit more about that goal.
Well, I've been researching, and as we all know, the mecca of kickboxing would be Thailand. And you guys have both been to Thailand, and I have not. So I kind of feel like as the years go by, it's like, why wouldn't you do it? Like, why didn't you do it before? And then those, like, for whatever reason, I haven't done it, but those reasons don't exist anymore. Now there is no excuse not to do it. So I should just make it happen. So that's sort of, obviously this summer, I'm going to go to Canada and see Shawn and some other family and friends and do some traveling, some hiking, and hopefully some training. I'm going to go see my friend Jamal, who runs a gym down there, and then come back here in the fall and just start training again more regularly until I go to Thailand, and then do like a 3-week camp and just top it off with a little fight there at the end.
That's what you're actually going to do a fight in Thailand?
Yeah, I mean, ideally I'll fight like a non-Thai, like a white dude or something, like another guy like me, like not so serious.
I was gonna say, yeah, those Thai dudes are pretty intense.
Yeah, I'm not trying to pick a fight with a Thai dude, but there's other people
Get
like
ready
me
for a
who
fight
go.
to the death.
Well, they train every day since they're 5. Like I can't compete with that. I'm not even. But if you train with them, they'll show you what's what. They'll teach you their way. They are very open. I mean, I looked into Phuket. That's where I'm thinking of going because it's tourist friendly and there's plenty of gyms where you can train 7 days a week, and it's the top training in the world. It's the top quality. All the UFC fighters fly there specifically to learn from the crews and the Thai people. So
Yeah, well, I think
yeah,
that'd be a really cool experience, man. And yeah, you'd be in good shape after that. That would really push you to the
yeah.
limits. One
You
of those
guys are more
camps.
than welcome to follow. It'd be cool to have you in my corner, backing me up. You'd be like, just kick him. I don't know. I could see Shawn giving like the most epic last round speech. Just be like, you just gotta do it, man. I could see that.
That fight in Thailand, will that be the first fight, or are you gonna look to get like a warm up one done in, I don't know, Canada
No,
or Sweden prior to that? Or...
I just think it might just be a one-off thing, just so I can look back at the end of this whole thing we call life and just say, in my movie life that I want to live, I want to do the Jean-Claude Van Damme thing and go to Thailand and have a fight. That's just part of the fun of the experience. I mean, it's a dangerous sport, but the odds of me like being really badly injured aren't super high. And like the worst scenario is you get KO'd and you just like wake up and have a headache and a concussion. It's like, so
Concussion.
you just have a few drinks and just go, you know what I mean? I don't think it's that. I don't.
I know. I think it's a cool experience, and I think you should totally do it. If I know that you've been into kickboxing for years. I wholeheartedly support it. For myself, though, I personally do not like getting punched in the face. That's one of the reasons why I picked jujitsu, is because it's just grappling and rolling. And if somebody gets you into a choke, like it's not instant, you kind of feel it coming. You're like, oh, okay, well, I've lost, and you just tap out.
Well,
Um,
jujitsu is good because you can train like full on and not really have to worry about concussions too much or anything. And as long as you're going to tap right, you're not going to get injured. Likely, it's possible, but
Mhm.
there's a controlledness about it.
But yeah, but I do respect that, like people that, like yourself or Connor, that is into more striking martial arts. Because again, I would probably do it more for the fitness. And I think it'd be fun, but I can't see myself actually doing legit sparring. Like I think the first couple jabs in the head with boxing gloves, I'd be like, nah, I'm out. Like I
Yeah, but
I don't think that's for me.
that makes a lot of sense, to be honest. It's like not in our best interest maybe to take blows to the head, but you do it within the context that you're comfortable with, right? Like everyone's comfortable up into a point, and then that's where you draw the line. So
But yeah, so
Better
maybe
to tap out rather than get knocked out. Yeah.
we could hear from you, Jimmy. So it seems like I've got my new Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu hobby. Albert's getting into weightlifting. What's your new exercise trend here?
Well, I still haven't chosen, unlike you guys, I still haven't chosen a martial art to get stuck into yet. After I spoke so much about it on those 2 episodes, what was it, Kung Fu and Tai Chi. But my main thing really is the gym. I've really, I was
Jim
going to say,
Jimmy. Jim
yeah.
Jimmy.
Yeah, I've really made a conscious effort to kind of notch it up a couple of levels recently. So I have Ebba every other week. And usually the week where Ebba's not home with me I was going 4 times a week. And then since I got listening to a bit of Andrew Tate and he's talking about why wouldn't you go to the gym? I think, what was he? I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, when I did my kickboxing, I'm getting smashed in the face every day, and then going to the gym's like a day off. It's easy. Why would you not just go? And like Albert mentioned earlier, those like voices that you have in your head where you're kind of deliberating or whatever, I just feel like it's me and Andrew Tate, and he's just telling me to haul my ass down to the gym. So
Dude,
yeah,
when you
now
said you
I've
got into Tate, I was like, now he's gonna get into kickboxing. This can be a whole it's a whole new thing.
yeah, you never know. Yeah, that could end up being the one.
I
But
see you in
yeah, so
Thailand, bro.
yeah, I'm there with you. But yeah, so now since I've sort of leveled it up as I termed it, yeah, it's like 5 or 6 times, well, 5 times minimum, it's ideally six. It's made me really hungry actually. I've had four
Oh
meals
yeah.
today, like, and it feels so it on that level of like mental health as well, mentally that connection between your mind and your body, it feels so good mentally when you're eating food after the gym and you can just sense it like going to your muscles rather than your stomach, like you're not bloated out as you were before.
Actually, I was gonna bring that up because I was thinking about this. I kind of come at it from the opposite end of things than most people, where they're trying to lose weight and turn it into muscle, and I'm like desperately fighting to gain a pound. Like that's why I stopped cardio, even though not
Mm.
only do I love cardio, it's like the most important thing is the most important asset in striking and kickboxing and things is cardio. But I was like, if I want to put on any weight, it's just got to be no cardio for a little while, and just like you've had your up and downs with the weight and everything, and you've kind of found your perfect middle path,
Yeah.
right?
If anything, though, we say up and downs. If anything, I'm kind of like the opposite to you. If anything, like I need more cardio. So that's just something I've omitted from that little story there is not only am I going to the gym more often now, but 1 hour of weights isn't good enough anymore. I do half an hour on the treadmill and then I do my hour or so of weights. So I'm purposely making sure I get my cardio in because I need it. If anything, I would say I'm too big. It's the opposite problem to you. And then yeah, leveling up how heavy the weights are, that's a mental barrier that you just got to smash through.
So if I'm just kind of curious here, I mean, of course, if you feel comfortable sharing, like what are your kind of numbers like for bench, squat, things like that?
Yeah, sure. So I actually gave up bench pressing like over a year ago. I prefer to take two dumbbells and have the bench at a bit of an angle. And then what is it? I have at the moment I'm up to 27 in each hand, 27 kilograms in each hand. I mean, that's compared to what I was at the beginning. I was probably at like 17 or something. What are your numbers at, Sean? Like, how does that compare to you? Like, might as
Me,
well exchange notes here, right?
I mean, I'm kind of out of practice. I hit a lot of problems with weightlifting. Like I have a issue with my elbow always clicking, like some kind of tennis elbow. So that was one thing that sort of held me back.
I'm sure the
Um,
blue belts will help you
I
fix that.
I one thing I really loved, I don't I've got some weights at home, but I don't have it. But at the gym, I really loved using the hex bar. I was a big fan of hex bar deadlifts because with the regular deadlifts, again, I kind of hurt my back. Like I had I don't know what it
Is
was.
that
Like
the one where you stand in the square and it's like a bar that goes around you? Is that one?
yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
I really like that one because it's a lot safer. And I was seeing that actually now a lot of like American football coaches recommend it. And at one point when I was going to the gym pretty regularly, I got up to about 300 pounds on that. So I was
Oof.
pretty happy with that. Although you get a lot of debate online. A lot of people say, "Oh no, it's not the same. It's not a real deadlift," blah blah blah. But I don't know. I didn't really care. I really like to focus on that bar because I just felt like it took a lot of the pressure off my lower back.
Yeah, man. Like
But
in the sake of saving your back, it's not really worth the argument, really.
yeah, but no, none of my conventional lifts like bench, squat, like none of them I never got like to really high numbers. And then again, it might just be like something with my body type. Like I know some people that just they start going, their numbers balloon up. I didn't really get that, so I sort of switched my philosophy. I would do kind of higher reps, not crazy high, but usually like 10 to 20, as opposed to trying to get like a
Mm.
one rep max sort of thing. I think the most I ever bench press, once I got 200 pounds, which is,
Wow.
not like a crazy amount. It's about at the time, and also I weighed about 200 pounds. I found that was, yeah, I found that just something about my body, I can never bench above my weight. If I weigh 185 pounds, I can get up to 185 pounds. If I gain weight and muscle and weigh 200 pounds, I can maybe bench 200 pounds. But like my body is just like, oh, nope, that's your cutoff. We're not going higher. Whereas again, I had friends that were, a bit bigger than me, 210, 220, but who were benching like 300, 325.
Is that why
Like
you're so good at the calisthenics, maybe? Because it's like your body. Would you say that's a body type thing? Like, does it have to do with endomorph and mesomorph for, do you know, scientifically speaking?
I really
Like,
don't.
is it like there's ectomorph and endomorph and then mesomorph in the middle? And like certain people on this side are better for calisthenics, whereas the ones that have a is it endomorph that puts on weight easily, or is it
I,
ectomorph?
I always get those confused. Yeah, I remember when we were younger, like I remember like in health class, at age 10, they would always really spend a lot of time talking about the different body types, but I feel like it's become, I don't know, like I feel like it's not discussed as much anymore. And there's just so much, again, I really, like I'm a history teacher. I'm not
Yeah,
like a health and phys ed guy. So I feel like there's a lot of science here that I don't really understand. So I don't really want to make any, generalizations, but I've found for me personally, like kind of medium to high reps, more endurance stuff, I do
yeah.
better at, and like high intensity, low weights is just not something I really excelled at. Like I said, I got up to about my body weight and then hurt my elbow. So it was just sort of my body maybe telling me, okay, maybe this is not for you.
Yeah, it's a clear sign, isn't it? One other exercise that I've done a lot of, I can't believe I haven't mentioned it already, is yoga. I got really into yoga the last couple of years. That's been really, really fun as well. And especially in terms of mental health as well. It's a clear connection between your mind and your body. The type of yoga I did, um,
Vinyasa
it
flow.
yeah, Vinyasa Flow. Yeah, you remember we spoke about it on the Tai Chi episode, didn't we? Um, beginning with the meditation, the breathing in and breathing out, moving your arms in synchrony with that breath, and going from smaller moves to bigger moves. And by the end of it, it's kind of, yeah, you really get in that state that we mentioned earlier on, where you're kind of indoctrinated in the thing that you're doing in that present moment. And by the end of it, it's like, wow, an hour just flew by and my body feels incredible, come out of there feeling like $1 million, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, no, yoga is a really great exercise. I used to do it again. I'd go through all these phases. At one point in my early 20s, I was really into it, and I felt like I was quite
Oh,
quite flexible. Like I could do like a lot of moves that other people couldn't in the class. And then I kind of took a step aside for a few years, and now I'm stretching and like I struggle to like touch my toes, and I'm like, oh, okay, I should probably probably get back into yoga.
wow. I had no idea that you'd been through so many different hobbies, Sean.
Yeah, like I said, probably I'm kind of a jack of all trades, but really master of none here. Like I know Albert's been very consistent with like his like kickboxing over the years. Whereas with me, like I said, I'm just I'm a curious person. I like to get up and move, but I don't know, maybe hopefully with jujitsu, I'm gonna persevere and stick with it longer. But like I said, historically, I mean, it's somewhat of a flaw, I guess, but historically, like once I hit a plateau with something, I tend to start to get a little bit bored and then move on to something else,
Well, they
for
say
better
it's
or
like
worse.
um they say that the sorry, I was getting a call. They say that the difference between like a casual or a hobbyist and then a professional athlete is when you hit that plateau, it's like now you know whether or not you want to take it all the way. And like I feel like my room for growth is infinite. Literally, you could train every day or not. It depends how much of your life you wanted to take over. Like I feel like I'm pretty obsessed with it, but I temper that with the fact that I have a son and other obligations and things that don't allow me to take it all the way. But I mean, there's people like on the other extreme, like Bruce Lee, who basically pushed his body until I don't think he was even in a healthy place when he died because he was pushing too hard. So I think like you said in the beginning, you have to enjoy it, but then also maybe not be obsessed with it either. Let it go for a day or whatever here and there. Like,
And Albert, where you talk about hitting those barriers and then seeing what level you're prepared to go to with each thing, it'll be interesting to see how you're feeling about the situation after you've had the fight. Once you've
yeah,
broken through
well,
that boundary and hit that big life goal, will you continue with it? Will you push to the next level?
that's the thing. You once you unleash, like Jet Li unleashed, once you unleash, do you want to go back in the cage? I don't know. It's hard to say. Not the cage, the octagon, but I mean like the cage. If you have that inner animal that you let out once, do you want to put it back away forever? Like it's hard to say. I think ultimately I'll end up teaching some form of martial art when I'm older. Like not every coach was a professional fighter and not every professional fighter becomes a coach. I think it's two separate. I'd rather learn more about how to teach the sports than how to be the best at it, because in order to do that you got to start young and you've got to be single-minded about it, and I'm not like as single-minded as I could be.
Well, you certainly do a great job of breaking down each martial art in these episodes we're recording. You very well articulated with it. So I'm sure that would transition through to teaching.
Yeah, I did a little bit of teaching last year to like teenage female youth at a community center kind of thing in town.
Mm.
So I have a little experience with it, but it helps when the students are more engaged and they're more passionate about what you're teaching them. I guess you could relate to that, Shawn.
For sure. Yeah, man, I think you'd make a great martial arts coach. And yeah, like you said, I think it's different vibe, right? Like if somebody's going to like an MMA gym where their whole goal is to become a professional fighter, that's one environment. But there's people come to martial arts for all different reasons, right? And if you're I think that being a good being a good coach and kind of understanding how to work with your students and understanding the needs of your students and being able to connect with them and motivate them and help to cultivate like discipline and their love of the art, that's going to be way more important. You're going to be
Yeah.
it's way more valuable if you can connect with people in that way than simply being, hey, look at me, look at all my trophies on the wall, like respect me because I knocked out 10 guys in the ring. It's like, no, like at the end of the day, that's probably not what matters, right? What matters is how you can reach people and connect with them and motivate them on their kind of exercise martial arts journey.
True.
Wow. I mean, that's really uplifting to think of it in those terms as well. It's kind of like you're paraphrasing here, but like you said, instead of pointing to the trophies on the wall, you're kind of passing something on, some very much in the spirit of Zen. But I feel like we are getting to that point in the show now where it's time to start kind of wrapping things up a little bit. So just a couple of side points to make towards the end here is this episode was originally going to be a Zen Diaries 3 episode where the matrixy thing, so to speak, was going to be that on Zen Diaries 3 we were going from 2 people to 3 people, but I don't know, it was a little bit gimmicky, so we decided to just kind of scrap that idea and continue with the current theme. We previously spoke about health foods. It seemed natural that exercise would be the next episode to go hand in hand with. But going forward now, we've got several genres that we can work with on the show. The origins of Radiant Light is Zen Buddhism, is spirituality. I feel that these things are clearly well connected to martial arts and mental health and all sorts of other topics that we can continue going forward. Religion is another one that I'd personally like to dive into a little bit more. How are you guys feeling about the show going forward and the various genres that we've got in mind?
Well, I think for me, it's kind of like after the next episode, we're going to take the show on the road and see how. I mean, I'm going to probably. We could do one in your basement together, or like that would be fun. So then we go on our separate ways, and then see how things pan out. Play it a little Taoist for a while and see what happens.
Yeah, so I kind of omitted to say that just then, actually. So in that Zen diary spirit of kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit here, so the viewers know and the listeners know as well. Up until this point, we've consistently hit our target of releasing 2 episodes per month, right the way since the beginning. But we don't really know if that's going to work out now. The summer is here. I'm going to be in England and Spain, God willing. Albert's also traveling over to Canada. So, we're just going to let the Tao take its natural course. And as Albert just said, bring the show on the road. Perhaps Shawn and Albert, if you want to make an episode together. We're really crying out for some new guests at the moment. No pressure, guys, but if we should meet any martial artists on our travels, Zen masters, spiritual leaders, anything, it would be great to produce some episodes with some new guests. How do you guys see that panning out?
Maybe Shawn could find somebody from the gym or whatever, and we could do like a barbecue diary at your place. That would be pretty cool. Brazilian barbecue diaries, BJJ, BBQ. You know what I'm saying? That's one.
Yeah, no pressure, Shawn.
Well, maybe you could start by having has Connor been on your show yet? I mean, it'd probably be pretty cool to hear his experiences going to
I think
and
Jamal and Connor are on the hit list.
Yeah, so that would be good. And then maybe once I'm sort of a bit more ingrained into the school and its community, like the BJJ's gym, like in its community, maybe at that point, maybe I could ask one of the instructors to maybe do a short interview. Feel a bit awkward asking right now because I'm just a couple weeks in. I'm still really the new guy here. So, but yeah, maybe at some point in the future that could be I could do that as a recording as well.
Awesome. I'm glad that you're up for this, Shawn. I mean, I was kind of in 2 minds whether to say this or not, but no pressure. If you're on your travels and you happen to meet somebody who you feel would be appropriate for the show, I have full trust in you to sit down and hit the record button for half an hour and put something together.
Well, little known fact, Shawn ran a radio show for at least 2 years or whatever, wasn't it?
Oh, wow.
What was it called again?
Yeah. It was called
Distorted
Reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't have it didn't really have a lot of structure. It was mostly just we would show up at the radio station. It was at, usually on a Saturday evening, and we would just do some little bit of DJing, play some music, kind of rant on the air. Did not have a lot of structure.
It was fun though.
Yeah, it was fun. We did have a good time, and I did do a little bit of work for the radio station. I did make a couple little PSAs, and I made a short little news documentary. But yeah, that was quite a few years ago now, so I'm gonna have to really brush up on my recording and podcasting skills here.
Oh, I'm sure that those skills that you learn will transition very well to Radiant Light. Absolutely. And like you said, not so much structure, but plenty of Dow. Hey?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a lot of Dow, but there's a lot of random music and just sort of general, kind of mischief on the air. But yeah,
cool, man. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Good times.
Okay, well, our viewers, our listeners, we're really hoping to continue with the consistent level of episodes that we've managed to produce so far. Hey, even better if we can level up. So we don't know exactly how this is going to pan out, but we've got great intentions, and hopefully, boys, we can move forward and spread some radiant light. Eh?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for having me on once again, and for inviting me to be an honorary host. And I look forward to being on more episodes and creating some content in the future.
Oh, thank you, Shawn. We're very grateful. It's an honor, and the pleasure is all ours, right, Albert?
Absolutely. But until then, stay zen.
Okay, that appears to be all we have time for on today's episode. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as whichever platform you listen to your podcasts on. And you can even follow us on Instagram too. Radiant_light_podcast. And you can always reach out to us at radiantlightpodcast1, that's the number 1, @gmail.com. So until next time, good night, God bless, and namaste.